The phone vibrated for the 8th time. Ava Collins didn't look at the screen. She had known who was calling, from the very first ring. And that was exactly what made her hand freeze in midair. Inside the glass office on the top floor of a Seattle building, everything was running exactly as planned. A market expansion contract was waiting for her signature. Her team outside was laughing, moving, living in a rhythm she had built. From the outside, Ava's life was a perfect success story. But that sound, it didn't belong to the present. It belonged to a cold hallway that smelled like bleach, to flickering fluorescent lights, to a 9-year-old girl sitting silently, her feet not touching the ground, clutching a worn-out backpack, waiting for a phone call that never came. Ava didn't answer. She let it ring. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. She kept signing documents, checking emails, replying to messages, every movement precise, controlled. But only she knew. Behind that calm exterior, a door had just been forced open. The door to a story she had spent over 20 years burying. Ava Collins, 33 years old, founder of a multi-million-dollar tech startup. The media called her self-made. She had never believed that word. Because no one builds themselves from nothing, without first being left behind. Her phone lit up again on the desk. Unknown number. Again. This time, it didn't ring for long. Whoever was on the other end seemed to understand something. This silence wasn't accidental. It was a choice. Ava slowly set her pen down. She looked directly at the screen, her expression steady, unshaken. But deep inside, an old memory began to rise. So vivid it felt almost physical. Back then, she didn't have the luxury of silence. Back then, she waited. Ava's family had once been ordinary. A small house in the suburbs of Portland. A backyard that was never perfect, but always cared for. Simple dinners. Weekend mornings filled with quiet laughter. Her mother, Linda, was the kind of woman who tried to keep everything in order. Her father, Mark, was quiet, but once dependable. Her older brother Ethan was easygoing. Her younger sister Lily clung to their father like he was the center of her world. And Ava was the one in the middle, the observer. She wasn't the loudest child, but she was the one who noticed things before anyone said them out loud. When her father lost his job, no one explained it clearly. They just said everything would be fine. When the bills started piling up on the table, they said it was temporary. When arguments began leaking through the walls at night, they said it wasn't something children needed to worry about. But Ava heard everything. She heard the silence between sentences, the sharpness creeping into her mother's voice, the heaviness in her father's footsteps. She knew something was breaking. And somehow, with an instinct no child should ever have, she knew she might be the piece they would cut away. The phone vibrated again. Ava closed her eyes for a brief second. Somewhere, an older woman was gripping her phone tightly. A man was waiting for what he believed might be his last chance. A brother was rehearsing apologies. A sister, possibly crying. All of them, after more than 20 years of silence, finally remembered her. But Ava didn't move, because she understood something they didn't. Not every door deserves to be reopened. And not every call deserves to be answered. No one said Ava's name first. Not when they sat down at the kitchen table that night. Not when the papers were laid out. Not when they started dividing their lives into smaller pieces, as if a family were just a problem to be solved. And Ava realized it before anyone had to say it out loud. The kitchen looked the same as always. Warm yellow light. The faint smell of dinner still in the air. The wooden table with the scratch Ethan had made years ago. Lily sat close to their father, gripping his sleeve like she was afraid someone might take him away. Her mother spoke first. Soft, careful, like she was trying to wrap something sharp in silk. Things are going to change a little. Just for a while. We're still a family. The words landed gently, almost harmless, but Ava wasn't listening to the words. She was listening to the silence between them, to the way her mother avoided her eyes, to the weight in her father's breathing. Ethan nodded. Lily started crying. No one looked at Ava. No one asked what she thought. No one asked where she wanted to go. The conversation continued, but it wasn't a conversation anymore. It was an arrangement. A division. A decision that had already been made before she walked into the room. Her mother said Ethan would stay with her. Her father said Lily needed him. Both had reasons. Reasonable, logical, easy to accept. There was only one thing no one explained. Where Ava would go. She didn't ask. She didn't cry. She just sat there, quiet, still, as if, by not moving, by not making a sound, someone might suddenly remember she was there. But no one did. That night, she stood in the hallway while her parents' bedroom door closed. Their voices weren't soft anymore. They were sharp, fast, tired. Her mother said, "You have to take her." Her father answered, "I can't handle another one right now." A pause. And then, a sentence Ava would carry for the rest of her life. "Just for a little while, we can send her somewhere. Until things settle down." Her. Not her name. Not daughter. Just something that needed to be put away. 2 days later, everything happened faster than she expected. No long goodbye. No dramatic tears. No one said this was a mistake. Her mother packed her clothes into a small bag. Carelessly, without folding them properly. Like she was putting away something that didn't fully belong to her. Her father drove. No music. No conversation. Ava sat in the back seat, hands resting on her old backpack, staring out the window. Familiar streets passed by. The corner store she used to visit, the park where she used to run. Everything was still there. Except her. She was the only thing being removed. The car stopped in front of a low building. The sign was faded. The paint peeling. A place no one would ever call home. A woman at the front desk smiled. A careful, practiced smile. The kind you give when you've done this too many times. Her mother knelt down and adjusted Ava's collar, even though nothing was wrong. "We'll come back soon." Her father signed the papers, didn't look up. "Just a few weeks." Ava looked at them. For a long time, she waited for something. A crack, a hesitation, a sudden realization that this was wrong. A decision to turn around. Nothing happened. Her mother stood up. Her father set the pen down. They turned and walked away. No one looked back. The door closed behind them with a quiet sound. But it was loud enough to split a child's life in two. Ava stood there, still, not crying. Not yet. Because part of her still believed that they would come back. That this was temporary. That she was not the one being left behind. But deep underneath, something had already begun to break. A small, cold realization that when it came time to choose, no one chose her. Hope doesn't disappear all at once. It fades, piece by piece. On her first night, Ava slept with her shoes on. She lay on a narrow bed, the plastic mattress crackling softly every time she moved. The room held 4 children, but no one spoke. One girl faced the wall. Another stared at the ceiling, her eyes empty, like she had learned not to expect anything to change. Ava didn't cry. Not because she wasn't hurting, but because she was waiting. She believed that if her parents came back late, if they opened the door in the middle of the night, she had to be ready. Ready to stand up, ready to go with them without causing trouble. That was the last kind of hope a child holds. Before she understands she has been left behind. The next morning she sat by the window. It faced the parking lot. She chose it without thinking. If they came back, she would be the first to see them. Not a staff member, not another adult. Her. Every car that pulled in made her heart tighten. A white sedan slowed near the entrance. Ava stood up too quickly, but it was just a volunteer dropping off supplies. She sat back down. She didn't ask. No one explained. On the 3rd day, an older girl walked over. She studied Ava for a moment, then asked, "Did they say they'd come back?" Ava nodded. The girl shrugged. "They always say that." Then she walked away, like she had just stated a fact. But to Ava, it wasn't just a sentence. It was a blade. After that day, Ava stopped sitting by the window. But she still listened for doors opening, for footsteps, for anything that might sound like a miracle. The miracle never came. The days began to blur together. Wake up, make the bed, line up, eat. Don't talk too much. Don't ask too many questions. Don't cry where anyone can see. Ava learned fast. She learned how not to be noticed. She learned how to do everything right. She learned how to become easy. Because in that place, children who still hoped got noticed. And noticed children got hurt. A social worker named Mrs. Turner spoke to her often. Her voice was gentle, always trying to sound safe. She asked Ava what she liked to eat, asked about school, asked about her birthday. But she never asked the only question that mattered. Why didn't anyone come back? She made phone calls, left messages, sent paperwork. She said they were going through a difficult time. Ava listened. But she didn't fully believe it anymore. Because she was starting to understand something. Her parents had rebuilt their lives, just without her. Her mother had moved into a new apartment with Ethan. Her father was living somewhere else with Lily. Two halves of the family still existed. Ava was the piece that had been erased. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments, days without a call, weeks without a visit. The shift from when they come back to if there are updates. One afternoon, Ava stood in the hallway as Mrs. Turner spoke quietly to someone nearby. Her voice was low. We may need to move her into long-term placement if the family remains non-responsive. Non-responsive. Such a clean word. NIAT. Professional. But Ava understood what it meant. It meant no one was looking for her. No one was coming back. No one was trying. That was the day she stopped waiting. Not completely, but enough. Enough for a part of her to go quiet. Her 10th birthday passed without a single call. No cake, no card, no familiar voice. Just another day that looked exactly like all the others. And in that silence, Ava changed. She stopped asking, stopped watching the door, stopped building stories to excuse what people had chosen to do. Instead, she started doing something else. She became useful. She wiped tables, folded clothes, helped younger kids tie their shoes, memorized routines. She became the kind of child adults didn't have to worry about. Not because she was strong, but because she had learned not to need anything. And yet, every night, just before sleep, one thought always came back. Quiet, small, impossible to erase. Her mother kept her brother. Her father kept her sister. And her. No one kept her. Not everything that saves a person arrives as a miracle. Sometimes, it begins with something small. So small. No one would ever believe it could change the life of a child who had learned how to disappear. Ava met Julian on an afternoon when she wasn't expecting anything at all. It was a small community center, a place where kids from the system were sent to stay busy. Most of the time, it was exactly that, a way to fill hours, to keep them occupied. Ava didn't like places like that. People tried too hard there, tried to act like they cared, tried to create something that looked like family. But everything was temporary. And Ava knew temporary better than anyone. That day, she was assigned to a small room in the back. A few old wooden tables, piles of broken electronics stacked in corners, and a man. Older. Shirt dusted with grime. A screwdriver in his hand. His focus so steady it felt like the rest of the world didn't exist. He didn't smile when he saw her. Didn't ask if she was okay. He just said, "If you don't want to sit around, come here." Ava stood still for a moment. Then she walked over. An old radio sat on the table. Open. Wires exposed. Everything tangled and confusing. Julian pushed it toward her. Try. No long instructions. No soft encouragement. Just a chance. Ava looked inside the machine. She didn't know what she was doing. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she didn't belong. She felt like someone who could try. The next day, she came back. No one told her to. She just did. Because in that room, things made sense. If something broke, there was a reason. If you fixed it correctly, it worked again. Not like people. Not like families. Julian didn't praise her when she got it right. But he didn't punish her when she got it wrong. He just said, again. And Ava tried again. Over and over. The first time the radio made a sound. Faint. Almost nothing. Ava froze. She didn't smile. Didn't speak. But something in her eyes shifted. It wasn't hope. It was proof. Proof that she could create a result. Around the same time, someone else started noticing her. At school, Mrs. Harper, the guidance counselor. Not the kind of person who asked endless questions about feelings. Not the kind who dug into your past just to understand your pain. She watched. One afternoon, she stopped Ava after lunch. Why do you always stay behind? Ava shrugged. Nothing else to do. Mrs. Harper shook her head slightly. No. You're not the kind of person who does nothing. You like control. You like fixing things. You like seeing something change because of you. Ava didn't answer, but the words stayed. For the first time, someone wasn't looking at her like a forgotten child. They were looking at her like someone capable. Mrs. Harper helped her enroll in a basic tech class. There, Ava learned things that had never existed in her world before. Logic. Systems. Processes. Things that didn't change because someone felt different that day. Things that didn't leave. At first, she followed instructions. Then she started to understand. Then she started to build. A small app. Simple. Basic. Just something to organize daily tasks. No one told her to make it. She did it because she wanted to. Because for the first time, the future wasn't something distant. It was something she could build. Line by line. Step by step. Decision by decision. Foster homes still changed. Rooms still didn't belong to her. Nights were still long. Thoughts still heavy. But now, something else existed alongside all of that. Something small, quiet, but steady. A feeling that she wasn't just the girl who had been left behind. She was someone who could create something. And if she could fix a broken machine, maybe one day, she could fix her life too. No one told her that. No one promised it. But Ava didn't need promises anymore. She had proof. Success doesn't arrive in a single explosive moment. It comes quietly, slowly, repeatedly. So quietly, sometimes even the person living it doesn't realize how far they've come. Ava Collins didn't become what the media called self-made overnight. She built it, piece by piece. Line by line of code written through sleepless nights. Side jobs just to cover rent. Failures no one ever saw. No one stood behind her. No family to go back to. Just one principle she never let go of. If something didn't exist, she would create it. When Ava aged out of the system, she didn't have much. A small room, a few sets of clothes, an old laptop, and an idea. At first, the idea was simple. An app to help people manage multiple responsibilities, to bring order to lives that felt scattered. It didn't sound revolutionary, but to Ava, it meant everything. Because she knew what it felt like to live without structure, without control, without stability. She didn't want anyone else to feel that way. Her first version wasn't perfect. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't fast. No one noticed. But it worked. And someone used it. Then another person. Then more. Ava didn't celebrate. She improved it. No applause. She kept going. The years blurred together. Work. Fix. Learn. Repeat. There were days she wanted to quit. Nights she sat in a dark room, staring at her screen, wondering what she was even trying to prove. And then she would remember something simple. No one was coming to save her. And that truth no longer hurt. It drove her. Her company began to gain attention when a small article appeared on a tech blog. Not because the product was extraordinary, but because of the story behind it. A girl from the foster care system, building something thousands of people were now using. The story spread. Slow at first, then faster. An interview, a bigger article, a video shared across platforms. The name Ava Collins started appearing in places she had never imagined. But what truly changed everything was one sentence. During a live interview, the host asked, "What made you start?" Ava paused, just for a second. Then she answered, "I was a child no one came back for." No one expected that answer. It wasn't polished, not softened, not shaped into something inspiring. It was just the truth. The clip was shared thousands of times, then tens of thousands, then more. And for the first time in her life, Ava's story was no longer hidden. It was called by its real name, abandoned. 3 days later, her phone started ringing. Once, then twice, then constantly. Unknown numbers. No names attached. But Ava didn't need to look. Her body recognized it before her mind did. She didn't answer. Not because she was afraid, but because she understood. Some people only remember you when you become something they need. The messages started coming in. "We need to talk. There are things you don't know. Your father is sick. Your mother wants to see you. Your brother says he never forgot you." Each message reached for her, like hands trying to pull her back into a place she had left long ago. Ava read them, didn't respond, didn't react. But she didn't ignore them either. She forwarded every number to Maya, the one person in her life who could look at a situation without letting emotion distort it. Maya didn't ask questions, just said, "Let me look into it." A week later, the picture was clear. Not regret, not love returning. Need. Her mother was struggling financially. Her father was living alone, seriously ill. Her brother had just lost his job. The family that once left her behind was now facing something they couldn't fix. And they remembered her. Not the child they abandoned. The woman she had become. Ava sat alone in her office, looking out over the city. Lights glowing, life moving, everything continuing as it always had. She didn't cry. She wasn't angry. She just understood. Clearly. Completely. That 20 years of silence had never been accidental. And neither was their return. It wasn't love finding its way back. It was timing. Because for the first time, she had something they needed. Not every truth comes to heal. Some truths come to end illusions. Ava didn't choose a cafe. Didn't choose her home. Didn't choose anywhere that carried memory. She chose her office, cold, clean, glass walls, bright light, no history. And most importantly, it didn't belong to them. They arrived early. Standing outside under the soft yellow glow, 4 people who used to be a family now stood together like strangers, trying to rehearse a role they had forgotten how to play. Ava watched them through the glass. She didn't open the door right away. She observed. Her father looked smaller, not just thinner, diminished. The certainty she remembered in him was gone. Her mother still clutched her bag tightly when she was nervous. Ethan stood straight, but his eyes kept shifting, like he didn't know where to rest them. And Lily. Lily was the only one looking directly at the door. As if she knew, as if she understood. The door opened. No one hugged. Good. They sat down at a long table, the distance between them clear, intentional. No one knew how to begin. Finally, her mother spoke. "You look really good." A soft sentence. Empty. Out of place in that room. Ava didn't react. She said only one thing. "Start talking." No anger. No raised voice. But no space to escape. Ethan went first. He talked about hardship, about things she couldn't understand as a child, about decisions no one wanted to make. Her father said he had been overwhelmed. Out of control. Not capable. Her mother said she thought Ava would be safer in temporary care. Lily cried. Said she didn't know. Said she had been lied to for years. Each explanation was laid out carefully. Gentle, reasonable, emotional. As if, given enough time, the past could be rewritten. Ava listened. She didn't interrupt, didn't argue, until the words ran out. Then she stood, said nothing, walked to the back, opened a drawer, took out 4 folders, came back, placed one in front of each of them. The sound of paper hitting the table was louder than anything that had been said. They looked down. Dates. Records. Notes. Signatures. Things that couldn't be softened. Things that couldn't be rewritten. Ava's voice was calm. You keep using words like hard, complicated, no choice. She paused, then continued. Let me simplify it for you. She looked directly at them. You didn't lose me. You left me. No one responded. No one could. She kept going. She told them about the room that smelled like bleach, about the bed that made noise every time she moved, about waiting by the window, about homes that never became hers, about meals that weren't enough, about nights she didn't sleep, about words that cut without ever touching. Her mother started crying. Her father didn't look up. Ethan covered his mouth. Lily broke down completely. Ava didn't stop, not because she wanted to hurt them, but because she had been silent for too long. Then she told them about the people who stayed. Julian, Harper, people who had no obligation, but didn't leave. That was the part they couldn't understand. Not because they weren't smart enough, but because they had never been where she was. Finally, her father spoke. He said he was sick. He said he didn't have much time. He said he wanted to make things right. Her mother reached out, then stopped halfway. Ethan said they needed help. Not directly, but clearly enough. And in that moment, everything became clear. No past, no emotion, just the present, and need. Ava leaned back in her chair, looked at each of them, then said, I did not build this life to become a landing place for the people who left me. Not loud, but undeniable. Her mother broke down. Ethan stayed silent. Her father lowered his head. Lily kept crying, and Ava softened. Just a little. Not for all of them, only for Lily. If you want to talk, we can start again. Slow. Honest. No rushing. Lily nodded. That was all she was given. And maybe, all she deserved. Ava turned back to the others. No money. No support. No rebuilding a family. If there is contact, it will be on my terms. No lies. No rewriting. Only truth. They didn't argue. They couldn't. They had lost that right a long time ago. When they left, when the door closed behind them, the room fell silent again. Ava stood alone. Not relieved. Not broken. Just clear. Adrian arrived minutes later. He didn't ask how it went. He just held her. And for the first time in a long time, Ava allowed herself to be still. No running. No proving. No waiting. Because finally, she understood something. Forgiveness is not the same as opening the door. And love is not a reason to come back. If this story touched something inside you, you are not alone. Some people had to build their own way forward when no one stayed. Tell me in the comments, would you have made the same choice as Ava? And if you believe that your past does not define your future, take a second to like this video and subscribe. Because stories like this are not just meant to be heard. They are meant to remind you that you can choose yourself, no matter who didn't.